everyone. Welcome to Mighty Forces. I'm your host, Amanda Hirsch. If you're someone who gives a damn about other people, about the state of the world, then you are in the right place. Welcome. Take a load off, let your hair down, and get ready to go deep. And to get stupid. Because in my experience, the best conversations with the best people share both of these characteristics. Let's start the show. Hey everyone, welcome to today's episode. A quote popped into my mind truly as I was hitting record on this introduction, and it's this: unused creativity is not benign. Brené Brown said that. I'm going to say it again. Unused creativity is not benign. And I think not surprisingly, that popped into my mind because I just finished talking to today's guests, two tremendously creative people. Tim Manley, who is a writer whose first novel is coming out in 2026. There'll be information and links in the show notes. He is also a Moth Story Slam winner, a filmmaker, a former English teacher, and we met through our kids, and I just felt such playful energy from him right away. He's just a creative soul, and whimsy kind of emits from him. Or I guess you can't emit from, he emits whimsy. I'm editing myself in real time. Stephanie Krauss, my other guest today, is also somebody who emits whimsy. I mean, Stephanie is someone who, she's an arts educator, and she's somebody who walks down the street and, sees a telephone pole and sees it as a robot and takes a picture of it and puts it on Instagram, or she'll see funny things in the grocery store and make these like silly little videos and post them, and just goes through life with this creative spark and wonder that is very hard to preserve in adulthood, particularly these days. And I guess I shouldn't say that. There's always hard stuff, and it does feel harder than usual to maintain creativity when so many of us are so depleted right now. And yet I'm very aware of the fact that it's not as if life has ever been easy for so many people. And the before and after that I am experiencing these days, or have been for the last 8 years or so, is very much a sign of my privilege. So I don't mean to suggest that it's ever easy to access creativity. And I think it's always a gift when someone like Stephanie and like Tim carries creative energy with them in a way that is palpable to others and infectious and kind of makes you want to play. Yeah, I think that's how I would describe the two of them. Stephanie, by the way, I mentioned, is an arts educator. She is a longtime educator at the Metropolitan Museum of Art in New York City. She's been an instructor for the Kennedy Center. She went to RISD, Rhode Island School of Design. But more than that, she just teaches so many classes day in and day out to adults and students alike that encourage them to cultivate their creative spark and to just play. And I honor that about her. So as you can tell, as usual, I'm very unenthusiastic about today's guests. I tend to have people on the show who don't inspire me at all. So another couple of dullards today. And we don't talk about anything interesting. We basically make small talk, idle chit chat. So if you're hoping for something else, I'm really sorry. You're in the wrong place. These are some very dull people, and we're about to have a really dull conversation. So enjoy, I guess, or whatever. Yay!
Hello.
Hello. Welcome. This is yet another episode of your friendly neighborhood podcast, Mighty Forces, with Stephanie Krauss and Tim Manley, who are wave to the listeners.
I am waving.
Listeners, there was excited waving that happened. And listeners, I would say, if you are listening, this is one that it might be worth watching because the backdrops of each of my guests today are visually rich. And actually, maybe we'll start there. So, Stephanie, tell us what we're seeing behind you, because it's fun.
Yeah, so this is my teaching space. Starting with the pandemic, I was forced into online teaching, which I have turned out to absolutely love. That's been one of the most surprising things of my teaching career. But initially, I had, I'm like crammed in the office with just like this boring bookshelf. So I started pasting drawings on over the bookshelves, but then we'd have to like lift them to get out the books. And so eventually I switched my space and then I just started putting up things. Most of the stuff that's on the wall behind me is stuff that I've made in class when I'm working with the kids. And so I just pasted up because usually, well, I was about to say kids, but adults too, usually when they join, they're just like, oh, did she draw
Yes.
that? It just makes it a little more exciting to start. It lets them know they're coming into a space of abundant, making and creativity. There's no one right way to do things. As you can see, everything is different, although it's all silly. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, I don't have any of the realistic stuff up there because that's not what I like to do. But
Yeah. I
yeah,
love it. I love it. That's like a blue bird with a purple beak and purple feet that I'm looking at there behind you?
yeah, it's actually pink. But yeah, I guess it's pink, purplish because it's on black paper. But yeah, that's oil pastel. That was just that was I'm pretty sure that was a doodle that happened when I was on a phone call, actually.
I love it. Well, okay, wait. So, Tim, tell us about your background. And then, Stephanie, we're going to come back to things that you doodle while we're on calls. So,
Okay.
Tim, you're in a rocket ship. Is
I'm
that
in a
correct?
yes, I'm in my office, which is my child's bedroom, which is a rocket ship. There's a rack of dress up clothes behind me, and there's also on the wall a big like a window and maybe control panel of a rocket ship, which was made by my brother for an old episode of the web series that I made, and then I didn't want to get rid of this lovely rocket ship thing, and so it was tucked away for a while, and then finally we stuck it on the wall of my kid's bedroom. So now
I
when I
love
have
it.
calls, I call from inside I guess it's like a closet slash rocket ship.
Sure. Well, most rocket ships are also secretly
Closets.
closets.
Yeah, I
That's
guess
right.
that's a good point. They have a lot happening in them.
Yes. Yes. Tim, did you ever think when you were making your web series that one day that set piece would be hanging on the wall of your child's bedroom?
No, and actually, there's quite a few props or things that I made way back then that now have been like half destroyed or something from being played with by a child, which was funny because I would make things for this web series in sort of like a childlike fashion or sort of trying to like channel kind of a child art making spirit. And then I'd watch those things mildly get destroyed by an actual child only a few years later, which
That's
I hope
amazing.
is correct. Yeah.
That's amazing. I now I'm thinking about all the creative projects that I was involved with before, not only before I had my daughter, but before I thought I wanted to have any child, right? And it's sort of wild to think of these creations that we put into the world before we knew there were going to be human creations that we put into the world,
Yeah, that's really
you know?
true. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, you spend
And
a
that,
lot of time creating things and then after that you spend even more time creating something else.
yes, yes. And I know, well, did you guys both know that you wanted to have, sorry, we're like getting into it right away, but I'm realizing I'm following my curiosity. Did you guys realize that you wanted to be parents? Like, is that something you knew, like entering into adulthood with? So Stephanie, you're nodding. That was something you pretty much knew?
Yeah, although it was funny because I didn't end up meeting my ex until I was in my getting towards my mid 30s. And so there was a point in which I was like, well, I don't know if it'll happen. And all my siblings were having kids. And I remember going to this event where all the kids were running around and screaming. And I was so overwhelmed. And I left it. I said to my mom, maybe I don't want one, actually. She's like, Stephanie, remember, you wouldn't be having a whole lot of them at one time. You're right. But I did always love kids, and I always felt that I wanted that. So I was
Yeah,
glad that it got to happen.
that's cool. How about you, Tim?
I did, yeah. I think I have a number of siblings, and I think I always figured I would have kids. I think at some point I imagined myself as a single father with three children. I'm not single and I have one child, but
That's such a, like, you imagined it like that'll probably happen, or like, I hope
yeah.
that happens.
No, I mean, neither of those. It was just sort of an image in my head. Thankfully, I certainly wasn't hoping for it or predicting it,
Yeah.
but it was
Yeah,
an
yeah,
image
yeah.
in my
Huh.
head. Yeah.
Ah,
Like a lasting image?
No, just a passing image that I guess has somehow stuck with me and decided to come out, 15 years later or something. But I
that's so
think the
interesting.
the child I have requires two parents, and not really. I actually don't. I wouldn't even make a joke about that. But I did always think I'd be a parent for whatever that's worth, which is interesting.
Yeah, it is interesting. And I did not. Somebody here is not like the others. And it's me. It's me. No, I never thought I wanted to have a kid. I thought being a parent looked like the least appealing job on earth. I really did. I thought I didn't know a lot of kids. My impression was that kids screamed in restaurants, and that parents ran around with like snack cups on playgrounds giving Cheerios to kids. Like, I mean, it's not at all how I feel now. Now, I can't help but talk about my kid all the time. I'm madly in love with her, and I'm fascinated by children in general. Like, I want to talk to kids. I want to hang out with kids. I want to learn from kids. But for many years, it was dogs, not kids. I would walk down the street. I used to live in Washington, D.C., and I'd want to meet every dog. And I don't think I even registered like babies, kids that walked past. I sort of scanned them out. It's very odd. It's very odd. When you guys thought about becoming parents, did you worry what it might do to your capacity for all the other creative work that you do? Because that was a big thing for me. Stephanie, the knowing nod and chuckle that I'm seeing on your face.
I didn't think about that at all, and um, it was an awakening. There is a really great documentary that came out called Who Does She Think She Is? Which was about, and I got together with some other artist mom friends when we had our young kids and our toddlers, and we watched it, and it was about the struggle to how do you, and I think that's not just an artist thing, that's just a parent thing in general. How do you maintain your sense of self when you've stepped into this enormous role and this enormous responsibility, which, like you said, Amanda, is like the most joyful and all-encompassing and heart-opening thing you could ever experience. But I feel like for many people, and definitely for me, I completely lost who I was for a while. All my creativity was channeled into my relationship with my daughter and, fostering, being her guide to life. I love the way that when you're a parent, you're just a tour guide to the world. And I really stepped into that role with gusto. But there was a point as she started to leave toddlerhood that I was like, wait, I'm not like, it's, it was an interesting stepping into how creativity can feed you in different ways that, parenting was a form of creativity as well, but it just also helped me realize how much I need the other stuff. And I still honestly struggle with that balance. It's not something I've mastered by any stretch. I'm sorry, that was a very long answer.
That was a very good
No, not at all.
answer.
Yeah, very good answer that I think so many people would identify with.
I agree. I agree. How about you, Tim? What's your experience been like?
I think I identify with that answer. Yeah.
You're like, I'm just going to go
Sure.
with what Stephanie
I
said.
mean,
She nailed
yes,
it.
exactly what she said. And I think I somewhat understood beforehand that things would change and feel very different. And I had friends who had kids who sort of were creative people, whatever that really means. I mean that very broadly. And they sort of warned me, and it's correctly. It's a shift, you know.
Yeah. I'm thinking about how so often as humans, we're wired to be afraid of change. And something that I'm reminding myself of a lot in the last year or so is that sometimes like unexpected bad things happen, but sometimes unexpected good things happen. And I don't know if it's just that I have clinical anxiety. It might be.
A
But
great sentence starter.
Thank you. I could start every sentence with either. I don't know if it's just that I have clinical anxiety, or I don't know if it's just that I have clinical depression, but we should normalize that. That should become part of everyday conversation. Yeah. But I just worried about when I decided to have a child, obviously there was something affirmative in there. I mean, I wanted her for reasons, but I really did spend a lot of time when I was pregnant anticipating like ways that it might make my life worse. And then I guess the silver lining of that is how much it's made my life better. I mean, not to, I had like even the tour guide idea, Stephanie, that you shared, that was part of what initially hooked me into this notion of becoming a parent, was helping someone figure out who they were. I thought, like, what an honor to help steward someone's journey to figure out who they are. The plot twist, is that my daughter came out knowing who she was. like she was like, I'm me. And I was like, let me catch up, oh shit. Like now I'm realizing a lot more about who I am. You're helping me unpeel those layers. And so I'm sure I've been a tour guide in some ways. I don't want to say I haven't, but in some ways I'm the one taking the tour, very much. Well, look, we all met because of our kids. And it's really funny because you both separately emailed me ahead of this. I mean, sorry, I don't mean to out you. I can edit this out if you don't want me to. But you both separately were like, it's cool to say we met through our kids, but let's not name our kids or where they go to school or anything like that. And so I was like, well, I already knew they were both artists, and I already knew they were both teachers, and I already knew that they both like oozed creativity and whimsy. And I already knew that they were both parents. But now I also know that they're both people who maintain some real boundaries and privacy around their kids. And I respect that. So now you have that in common with each other.
One of my kids was really wanting to start a YouTube channel. And I'm like, only if you're like not, there are some famous YouTubers who are like always wear a mask or something. Like, don't put yourself out there. Like the internet is such an integral part of this landscape right now, but I feel like learning boundaries, or at least pushing off putting yourself out there until you know what that really means, is important. So I just like to try to. Yeah. I mean, it's been hard because there are times that I'm just like, I want to post what you said. It's so funny. Oh, and can I post this? I always get their permission, but
yeah.
It can be tricky in that I think I feel like I largely disappeared from social media or anything else for a variety of reasons, but for the past 6 or so years. But part of it is because my life was so much about being a parent, and I didn't want to turn that into content, for lack of a better phrase, right? I didn't want to use that as for a wide variety of reasons. I didn't want to share those stories publicly, but it meant I really had nothing else. I really had nothing to say for a while. And so it's really bizarre because I'm actually truly only just now beginning to return to okay, I guess I want to try to rediscover how to be present in a relatively public way, again, whatever that even means, online, whatever that means. And it's a shift. And I think it also is a shift because I'm like, I'm sort of relearning who I am at this moment in my life, which is also different from who I was, 6 years ago or something like that. So, there's a lot of layers to it, but, and I'm still sort of learning where I draw those lines. Like even 5 minutes ago or so, I started to somewhat make a joke about my kid or about parenting. And then I was like, no, actually, I don't want to say that for a variety of reasons, And it's tricky to learn the balance, which I think also speaks to some of the hesitation around trying to guide your child through them wanting to have their own online space or share their own things online. When you're sort of like, this is really complicated. I don't know how to navigate a lot of it personally, and so I don't have any answers to any of that. But yeah.
The truth of what you just said really resonates, which is parents, adults are so concerned about screen time for kids. And we just are so clueless about screen time for ourselves. Like, this is a new frontier. Humans have not lived through an era like this before, and we're just figuring it out. And I understand that a natural response is fear and clamping down and being like, kids, no, screens, no. But the truth, the honesty, the like vulnerability behind that is how much we don't know about how to take care of ourselves with this technology, and
very much.
Yeah.
It's very much a do as I say, not as I do game. And I've been trying, I've been trying to set harder screen limits for the kids. And at the same time, I'm like, okay, I have to be off at the same time. And I realize how much pull this stupid thing has. And
she says, raising her phone to the screen.
Oh, yeah.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
Horrible.
Right. I mean, that would be like the New Yorker cartoon, and probably someone's done this, of a parent mindlessly scrolling on their phone, being like, okay, kids, screen time's up. Right.
Yeah.
That's 100%. And even I've had, my son expressed to me a while ago, so wait, when you were a kid, there was no internet. I was like, no, there wasn't. And we didn't have phones, and we just had to make our own entertainment. And he's like, that sounds really great, actually. I'm like, yeah. I mean, I spend a lot of time bemoaning the internet and what it has done to, that's a whole other conversation, I guess. But, we've talked a lot recently about, like, especially for kids and teens, I think it's a net loss for them.
Well, it's interesting because, I've shared before on the show, my daughter is neurodivergent, and the iPad plays a really important role in her life. And I have to say that, it's been a really hard thing to navigate, how to allow her to reap all the genuine goodness, which I'll speak to in a second, that has come into her life from using the iPad, with not going so far as to isolate her and keep her from knowing how to interact with actual, humans in the real world. But I do want to speak to the positives that I've seen, because a huge part of her identity is tied to her fandoms. She's a fan of a lot of different, right? Mm-hmm. And she doesn't just mindlessly scroll through, sit there and watch videos, or mindlessly scroll through, information about shows. It's very interactive and very creative and very social, and very much creates a sense of belonging in her life, which I think speaks to, back in the early 2000s when I was working at pbs.org, and we were, speaking so earnestly about the power of the internet to bring people together. I mean, there is still, for all of its destructive poison, it does still have that power, 100%. And she's actually in an online club called the Inclusive Cartoon Club, which I found through OutSchool, OutSchool, if you want to sponsor this episode, that's cool. But it's this wonderful group of other young people who are super obsessed with a bunch of different animated shows, sort of the Gravity Falls ilk. And they get together and they talk about, queer representation in the shows that they watch. And they talk about just all kinds of themes. I like to say it feels like they're having like a high-level English seminar because of the sophistication that they're bringing into talking about storytelling. All that is on the iPad. I mean, and I could go on and on and on. But if we just took a hardline stance of no iPad, like none of that would be in her life. It's helped her figure out a lot of her identity. It's helped her learn a lot. It's helped her connect a lot, discover creative gems. It's inspired her own creativity. So I always feel like we have to get to some sort of yes and space with this,
Yes. And
you know, Tim, your kid, I think, is younger than ours.
Yeah.
So what has your journey been like with parenting and technology and devices and all of that?
Well, it's tricky. I find it really interesting to hear you share about your kids' connection with so many fandoms and things via the iPad and all that. And when I was a kid, I spent, all day either watching television or playing computer games or playing video games. And then when I was a teenager, when AOL Instant Messenger was kind of a thing, so I would have been doing that in the evenings, chatting with the same friends who I would have seen during the day at school, you know? And so much, and I would have made like websites as a teen, like very, very rudimentary websites. Or I think when I was like 10 and 11, I kind of got into like creating would-be chain emails that, like, when you scroll down them, like the colors, the different symbols that are different colors, they kind of create like an animated pattern. This was like 95, 96 maybe. So like I love, I have a long history of loving television, computer screens, and things like that, you know? And so complicated, for sure. Although also, and things are very, very different today, though, than they were when any of us were children. I think since my kid is younger, he's about 6.5. And so there's sort of different, I think we're in a different place than maybe your two kids are. Like, I haven't yet, there's not yet any kind of, my friends are on this thing, and so I want to be on this thing. Or there wouldn't be a lot of discovery of, I don't know, so that's kind of something I thankfully don't have to think about too hard yet. And I'm honestly a little petrified for a few years from now when it becomes the case. But I can remember a family member in my life. I remember when this would have been maybe like 2007 or so. Facebook was starting to become available to like teens for some reason. It was no longer like attached to colleges and universities. And I was only, I don't know how old I was in my early 20s, and someone had asked me, like, should I let my teenager wants a Facebook profile, you know, like their friends have one, they want one, but I'm scared of it. And I was very pro. I was like, friends have it, you got to do it. Let this person socialize, let them live their life. You got to do it. And today I'm definitely like, I would do anything. I would do anything to prevent like the deep dark hole of, I don't even want to think it. It's just so hard or frightening what can happen in all that world as a teenager.
I mean, I think it kind of comes back to the tour guide metaphor or example from earlier too, because we get to teach our kids how to use these tools, right? And again, we're not experts. I mean, we're not perfect. We're not models of virtue or whatever but teaching literacy, I mean, I say it to Tim, the former English teacher, but it's a form of literacy, right? Like how to use, Allie understands never start private messaging with strangers. Like she gets, and she understands why, not just because we said so, but like she knows why we don't do that, you know? And we don't put pictures of her all over because it just disgusts me to think about what might happen to pictures of her. And she gets that too. And she also doesn't want pictures of herself. And so, you know, I guess my husband Jordan and I are kind of media literacy obsessed people. I mean, we've brought that into like I think Tim, you and I were having a conversation about this actually. But, you know, when we read books with her, there's always, or when we did when she was younger, there's always side commentary. I remember reading the Ramona books, and it was like Ramona had to put on a dress and she was meeting a boy. And I don't know, there's like pressure that like, oh, is Ramona going to like this boy? And I was like, interesting that I guess her parents are assuming Ramona likes boys. Maybe Ramona might like girls.
Right.
You know, and like Ramona's supposed to be the symbol of the like spunky badass kid, right? But even in that book, there's this heteronormativity. And so, or I'd call out Barbie dolls or whatever, always like the sly side commentary, never the like, this is wrong, but always like, weird, that's strange,
right.
that's interesting. Nobody's Black in this book, I'm just noticing that, so I think that, I think that sometimes gets lost too in these conversations about screen time is it's not just like they're off or they're on and they're just alone in the void, right? It's like, how do you teach them to ride a bike? You teach them, how can you teach them to understand the risks and and to get them to maybe gravitate towards safer, more nourishing uses. So media literacy for the win is my point.
No, 100%, because I agree with you. I think there's a lot. I mean, you're talking to somebody who spends many of my waking hours on the computer, teaching kids, teaching adults from all over the place. I mean, I think it's opened up doors in an incredible way, but the part that often does fall to the wayside is exactly what you're talking about. It's, if you just give kids an iPad and see you later, that's a very different equation than what you're talking about. And I think, and it's not like it's going away. You can keep them off it, but if you don't teach them the good habits when they go off to college or when they're on their own, they're just going to right into that hole. So.
Yeah. And how can we support more parents who, like, I happen to have worked in media. Like, so, I mean, I happen to be a person I used to work at PBS. I'm very focused on media literacy, Not everyone is. I mean, people who are really smart about a lot of things wouldn't necessarily have the vocabulary or the instinct or the comfort to coach their kids through technology usage. And people are so scared of technology, too. It's like this source of shame, I think. I see that in older people I work with, like if you can't get onto the Zoom call right or something, like you feel like a humiliation. And so I think it's not just how to, the takeaway isn't just parents, it's all on you magically know how to teach media literacy to your kids. It's like, how can we have conversations about this, all of us, all ages, so that we can all be having a healthier relationship with technology and also not feeling embarrassed or ashamed to admit when when technology makes us feel really dumb, because I think it does make people feel really dumb a lot of the times.
Yeah.
Yep.
I'm reminded again of sort of the mid 90s or so, and being 10 or 11, and I would have spent a fair amount of time in AOL chat rooms, arguably probably not saying I was 10 or 11 years old, right? And probably having conversations that, looking back, were I was wading into adult territory, right? And nobody else was home. My mom was working. I was just sitting at the computer, and it's reminded me also of similarly being at a friend's house around that time, and we sort of like wander into the woods near his place, and discover like this old abandoned building in the woods, and you'd kind of try to make your way inside of it, and then you're rummaging around through all these kind of moldy, strange objects in this building. So it's tough because there are these memories of kind of like getting into trouble or doing art, possibly dangerous, or at least on the spectrum of dangerousness, things that I think actually are quite valuable in a way and meaningful as a child. And I think one thing I'm realizing that frightens me a bit, not to just talk about social media and the internet stuff, like forever, but is the addictive quality. As the people the grown-ups a few minutes ago who were saying like it's hard for us to get away from the phone or things like that. I think that's the thing that really concerns me, is the addictive quality, because it's something I feel so strongly. I'm a little bit into like, please get into a little bit of trouble. I'm not totally opposed to like, go a little bit too far on the limb. I don't want you to actually fall, but I do think it's okay for you to do something a little kooky.
Yeah.
But the addictiveness is frightening.
Right. I appreciate you bringing that in, because it's right, like this theme of keeping kids safe. And, some people would argue that today a lot of people do too much to insulate their kids and keep them so freaking safe that, whereas that they don't have the learning opportunities or the feeling of independence, the understanding of what it feels like to be exploring the world on your own, that arguably has really valuable qualities to it. But there's that, but it's like you weren't addicted to seeking out abandoned buildings
Right.
and moldy objects.
No.
You weren't compulsively
Right.
spending every waking hour going all over town trying to find every abandoned building and every moldy object.
Right.
And nobody had, wealthy companies hadn't designed those abandoned buildings.
Yes, exactly.
And filled with moldy objects.
Right. And then eventually sell them things.
Right. You weren't helping them profit
Right.
Truly. By going there.
I think that's a crucial distinction between the type of adventure or play or danger or trouble that a child could have once gotten into. Anyway, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. No, 100%, 100%. And I think it also brings up themes of control for me too, right? Because with digital things, I don't know, there's a sense it's all in the computer and we can control it all somehow, right? I don't know, that thought trailed off, but I just feel like there's some sort of a theme, not just of safety, but of control in what we're saying. I want to loop back to something that about 30 minutes ago I said I was going to loop back to, which is doodling.
Yes.
So if you're watching this episode instead of listening, you may have noticed that Stephanie is looking down, and she has my full blessing and support to be looking down instead of looking at the camera, and Tim's as well. And Stephanie, will you speak to why you are looking down as we speak?
I've heard this can also be an ADHD thing, which I never identified that way until I had 2 kids with it and I started looking at all the rating scales and I was like, oh, but I need to be doing something. It's very hard for me to just sit and just, talk. Like my body wants to do something, and I've always found doodling an easy way to do something that, keeps my my part of my brain occupied and my hands occupied in a way so that I can really focus. And I told Amanda this the other day, Tim, that I had an illustration professor who said to us, and granted they weren't lecturing much when I was in art school, but, he said, if you guys aren't doodling, I know you're not listening to me. And so it is I always have to preface longer calls or video calls with people by saying I'm going to doodle. It doesn't mean I'm not listening. I have to keep that part of me occupied. Yeah, so I can focus more. And this is actually a very complicated drawing, so I'm having to really focus in one way and listen at the same time, which is very interesting.
Well, I'm excited. And just to remind people, as we started the call, the wall behind Stephanie is filled with things that she doodled during other calls just like this. So maybe at the end we'll get to see your creation. And I certainly relate. I don't feel it as strongly as what you're describing, but all through school, all my notes, my notebooks, it was covered in doodles. And in fact, I thought of you yesterday, Stephanie, because I had to go to the bank. And I went to the bank and I sat in a beige, literally cubicle under fluorescent lights and was reminded of how much time I used to spend in environments like that and how glad I am that I don't anymore. And I had to sit there. I was there to open an account, and the person opening the account, very friendly, very nice person. Literally, it was like a joke. Sat there and typed for almost an hour. To open my account. I'm like, what are you typing? I don't what could possibly, I'm already like, why do I have to come into a branch to open an account? I still don't understand that. But okay, I'm here, I'm at the branch, and you're typing and typing and typing. And was so antsy. And he had, what are they called? Blotters? Is that what it's called? Or it was a big paper calendar on the desk. And it was decorated for November. It had all these little symbols around the edges of I don't know, a mug of cider and mittens and fall leaves. And I swear, and then he had all these pens with the bank's logo on the desk. And all I wanted to do was grab that one of those pens and start outlining and tracing those symbols and like drawing in the box of each of the boxes of the days of the month in the calendar and like doodling. And I felt like it was taking everything I had not to cover that surface in drawing. And that made me think really of both of you and of the conversation I was anticipating having with you both today, because I thought, I am so lucky. I am so used to being in spaces where, of course, we all doodle, or of course, we all say weird random shit that pops into our head and get like approving chuckles, where our creativity is just fucking out and like on display. And I don't mean to make assumptions for the two of you. You might have spaces in your life where you absolutely don't feel free to do that. But it just made me reflect on, you know, I guess what a joy it is and what a luxury it is in a way to be a creative person who has found other creative people and spend time, and who gets to spend time in creative spaces, you know, where you get to be color outside the lines and doodle all over the surface. And I wonder if you guys maybe want to share, like, what's a space like that that you've found in your life or that you've created, or what is something or someone in your life who's helped you find that sense of creative belonging? Or maybe do you remember a time not feeling that way and then what it felt like when you first did feel it? You know, like I know lots of places where I felt like I was in a beige cubicle, and then I can conjure the relief of like, oh, I'm not in a beige cubicle anymore. What does that bring up for you guys?
I think it's so internalized that wherever I am, it's, you know, I turn it into that. I don't know that I actually would have asked the banker if I could, but part of me thinks I might have been like, can I doodle on this? But I totally understand what you mean about spaces making it easier to access that energy. But I feel like for me, I'm so steeped in it. It's like everywhere I go, I'm looking for possibilities. And it's like, I'm never, and I guess sometimes to my detriment, I'm never shy about just doing the weird thing or saying the weird thing or expressing the thing. So,
and I love that about you. And
Yeah.
no, and I mean that so sincerely. Like, it's one of the things I love about you.
Yeah, the person at the bank can always say, "No, please don't doodle on my calendar." They're allowed to say, "No, please don't." You're allowed to ask, and they're allowed to say, "No, that sounds really weird. Don't do that." That's you know.
and then pipe for another 20 minutes.
Then go back to typing.
Subject was very odd. I'm not sure we should give her an account.
Right. They're free to do. That's okay. They can do that.
Yeah. Why does it feel so hard to ask for permission though? And like, you know, why is it? I mean, it's not, I'm a pretty confident person. And so it's not outside the realm of possibility that I might have asked, but I definitely didn't yesterday. You know, I definitely instead sat there and felt the disconnect between my inner life and the wild and woolly energy inside me and the environment around me. And I didn't take steps to bridge the gap. I didn't take, you know, and I was having a pleasant conversation with the guy, but, you know,
do you like leaves? I have some leaves on my desk.
I see you have a mug of cider on your calendar. Do you? I don't know. I mean, it's an interesting question because I don't know. Maybe it really would have been just completely inappropriate to be weird and bizarre and silly or whatever with this bank person. I have no idea. You know, maybe there certainly are some circumstances where just being that way wouldn't be appropriate. But it's a relief if maybe, especially as one grows up, you're able to build your life in such a way that more and more of the spaces in it are permissible for you to just be as you are.
Yes.
Certainly not everyone has that luxury for a wide variety of reasons, but it is a relief if you're able to do that. And I would say largely at this point for me, it is, I think part of the reason we were stumped is probably both like, oh, wow, actually a lot of the time I feel comfortable just being able to be as I am. That's very nice.
I think I was just thinking about, you know, that the fantasy land in which all spaces allowed for that. And I think that's something that, a lot of the kids in my classes are there not necessarily for what I'm teaching them, but what I'm modeling, which is like what it's like for an adult to still inhabit the space that they can access so easily. Like you don't have to outgrow that. You can Peter Pan your way into adulthood. But yeah, you're right that, you know, I do know sometimes I'm just like, all right, just
Yeah.
not gonna
And then
not gonna be my full self here, but
the banker is allowed to say, please stop doodling in your sketchbook.
Put your marker away.
They're allowed, they can say that, and then you can reply, I don't know.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's actually I really appreciate, Tim, you bringing our attention. I mean, I love this, like, we're really play acting with the banker, but that we always do have a voice and we can always ask and people can always say no. And yet I have, and I think because I think, not to go too heady with this, but in our world, a lot of times people behave maybe the way I did, which is they make assumptions, right? I'm in a bank, I'm in a beige cubicle. This guy would think it was really weird. It would probably make him uncomfortable. I don't even actually care if people think I'm weird, but I don't want to make other people uncomfortable.
Right, exactly, truly, yeah.
So it's not like I would, if he was like, you're a total weirdo, but go for it, I'd be like, yes, great, But if he was like, you want to draw on the blotter? Yeah, I guess you can. And it's almost like I feel like somehow and this is, probably codependent of me, but like, I feel like I'm taking care of him by not even bothering him with the request. And maybe there's too much of that in the world, as we all try to maybe understand each other better and get out of these groups where we make assumptions about each other. Like maybe that exact threshold of being willing to say what's true for you politely, maybe we need more of that.
And at the same time, just for the simple, getting back to the art thing and the idea of that in the bank, I think I'm always more on the side of that might make his day. Like he doesn't like this beige cubicle either, right? And you're right that he might have just been like, okay, well, I guess you're very odd, but it might have just been like, oh my gosh, thank you. Because I feel like, so much of becoming an adult is compartmentalizing that creative freedom and that, like just being who you are, exactly what you said, Amanda. It's like you just are who you are unabashedly, and then you start putting yourself into smaller and smaller boxes. And I mean, not just creatively, but in general. And so I do think there's a lot to be said for, what would the world be like if we could just
and earlier when we were talking about parenting too, about the idea that like, it may just be that I have clinical anxiety, but I anticipated the worst in that scenario, right? And why I'm also a really creative and imaginative person. So why didn't I also imagine I might make his day if I asked for that?
Yeah.
Like, why did I imagine I might make a horribly awkward situation that is unpleasant for this man instead of it might put a smile on his face, right?
Right. I mean, it's tricky because also another thought that I could imagine having in that scenario is this person's just doing his job and probably just trying to get through the workday, and that's fine if that is not is they can do that in whatever way they feel they have to make it to the end of the day. I find that a lot of times at this point in my life, I would likely, if I was in that scenario, have said a thought I was having, because often a thought that's in my head will come out of my mouth, which has taken me a long time to make that true, actually. I actually think I worked really hard for a long time to make that the case, to not have a thought in my head have to go through like 1,000 gates of permission to get outside.
Out.
But what that looks like then is I could imagine sitting in that cubicle and just saying to this person, this is a very gray cubicle. And then and the person may laugh or may not reply at all. And that might be a cue to me of this person sort of clicks with me or doesn't. And that's fine,
Yeah.
But I could imagine something coming out of my mouth. Which is neither here nor there. As long as it's not something offensive. Like, I couldn't imagine sitting in such a dull job as yours, having to cry as long as you're not saying something awful.
Right.
It's okay.
Right. Yeah. And extracting my judgment and the stories I tell myself from just the plain observation is always a practice as well, And I don't think I was like, I don't know. It's interesting. I was not making up a story about this guy. In fact, again, just to say, we had a really lovely conversation. So it wasn't at all that I was making assumptions about him based on the beige cubicle. I didn't even occur to me to think, what's his relationship to the beige cubicle? I was pretty much thinking about my own relationship to it, and then spiraling off into heady thoughts about how people don't have sense of belonging in beige cubicles. But I think that, I don't know. I guess the thing I'd like to highlight from what you just shared is the importance sometimes of giving ourselves permission to say our thoughts. I mean, we talk so much in our culture about the opposite of that, of like, rein it in, folks. Like, you don't have to say every thought in your head.
Oh, yeah.
But there are really sensitive people like us who sometimes go the other way, who have a lot of thoughts and keep them in boxes. And, sometimes it's helpful to have a permission slip of like, you're allowed to say the thought, and you don't, I'm saying this to myself more than anyone else, you don't have to necessarily anticipate all the ways the person could respond and protect against every negative outcome. Sometimes you can just say a thing.
I agree. Yeah. Although also there are sometimes I look at what someone says on social media and all I can think is, it's free to be silent. It is.
And that's the social media thing right there with your kids, right? Because there's a difference between.
Yeah, right. So, it's like your silence will not protect you, but sometimes your silence might protect me.
That's right. Yeah.
Listen, kids, I can't believe it's literally almost been an hour.
What?
I know. It's accurate. I'm not telling lies. I wanted to talk so much more about some of your specific creative projects and journeys and all of that. You're too much fun to talk to, so I might have to have you back at some point.
Oh, well.
But I do want to make sure I ask you something that I've started asking all my guests, which for anyone who's listened to another episode, you will know what I'm about to say. And if not, get ready. It's so fun. The question I want to ask you is, so this is a podcast for people who give a damn. And I just want to invite you to check in with yourself and think, as you think about other people who give a damn, maybe people who don't feel at ease in a beige cubicle, but also any other interpretation in your heart of what it means to give a damn. And what is just something human to human that's in your heart right now that you might offer to them? And it might have to do with navigating the year we're in, which isn't a fun one in a lot of ways. And it might just have to do with humaning in general. What's something you'd like to say to people who are listening, who give a damn?
I have a thought. And my thought is...
say it. Remember, we say
right, there we
go.
There we go.
Spit it
Although
out.
you also, and then you also trying to... Anyway. It connects back to parenting because before we had our kid, some friends of ours who already had a kid gave to us, I think, the only piece of advice that I've consistently found worthwhile, which is that do whatever works. And I would love... There are a lot of thoughts that I would have for what to say to someone who gives a damn, but I think my only actual thought would be you do whatever works, and if that means you sort of, sometimes you go for a walk in nature and that's what feels right, great. Or if you're just going to you're just going to be angry, great. Or I don't know, you do whatever works for you at that moment or on that day.
I think there's grace in that.
I give permission to be however you need to be at that moment.
I love that. That's actually very, very loving of other people. Yeah. Thank you, Tim. Stephanie, how about you?
Mine kind of relates to that. And it also relates to parenting, because I think this has been something I've really had to learn as a parent not just as a humaning person, but that whole thing with put your oxygen mask on first, you can be very concerned about any number of things going on around you, but ultimately it's impossible to give and take care of others without giving yourself, what's the word, grace and compassion. So just what Tim said, I remember you posted something recently, Amanda, about like the solace you were taking in being out near the water and the trees and, just whatever that is for you. And, hopefully it's not doom scrolling, but if it is, that's okay. But, whatever lifts you up and, buoys your own spirit, because you can only, and, for a while, I was sandwich generation where I was caring for 2 young kids and my aging parents. And that is like, and I said to somebody I worked with, I feel like I'm like, when you look at the dried corn husks that you use for decoration, I feel like I'm just a husk right now. It's like there's almost nothing left inside. I'm just barely held together by string because I'm giving and giving and giving. And it was because I wasn't doing anything to replenish myself. And sometimes you don't have time or you don't have money or whatever. I mean, I know that's a tall order, but even if it's just something like stepping outside and touching grass, for a minute, if there is grass. I know there wasn't really in Brooklyn, but or just doodling, whatever it is.
Yeah.
Sorry, not very profound, but
no, what we all need. I mean, there's certain wisdom that like I think a lot of us know, but we still need to be reminded. You can't hear it enough, and yeah, I think too, to your point, Stephanie, what comes up for me is also this idea that like little amounts of it work. So you don't necessarily have to schedule a hike to the local state park and like plan a whole day and like figure out how you're going to immerse yourself in the prettiest trail in a 30-mile radius. Like you can go touch grass, right? Or like if you don't have time to take yourself to the movies, can you watch a clip from a favorite movie real quick just to buoy your spirits, like little micro dosing, right? So whether it, and I like the spirit of what you offered, Tim, of like being non-judgmental about what it is that you need, right? Like, I mean, I have times where what I need is to meditate, and I have times where what I need is to scroll through TikTok. And it actually is like really pleasant to just watch stupid, funny clips for a period of time. And like, whatever it takes, like whatever it is, eating from the jar of peanut butter or calling a friend or, I don't know, whatever. That's my wisdom for today.
Yeah, you're right. I was being judgy about doom scrolling, but that's also because I think it's easy when you're scrolling TikTok and finding the funny stuff, then suddenly here comes the person raging about something, and then you're like, oh no, and it puts you in a worse space. But I definitely agree. Sometimes I'm like, I just want to watch something silly, or I just want to see people, paint watercolors or whatever it is.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I remember people being like, just like, get a massage. I'm like, who has time or money for a massage?
But you can reach over your own shoulder and give it a little squeeze.
Or learning the, squeeze. This is like the mouth.
She's showing us, folks.
Oh.
She's showing us.
It's next to the thumb. Something good.
Push next to the thumb, everyone.
And everything will be all right.
Everything will be all right. I think so. All right. Well, we solved it, everyone. So thank you so much for being here today. Just in time for the weekend. Whew, we almost didn't solve it, but then we did. So good.
I didn't finish my doodle, but I can
we
show
see
you
your doodle in progress?
Really wacky. It's very
that's
busy.
Lovely.
Woo!
Oh, fun.
I love it. It looks. I'm getting sea creature vibes.
Yeah, I mean, normally they have faces and stuff, but this one just turned into whatever's happening here. But I'm gonna keep doing it for a while because this is feeding me.
Will you send me the picture when you feel like it's at a done state, and I will put it in the show notes for people?
Yeah,
maybe.
Sure.
Yeah,
I can do that. As long as it's a doodle, it's not supposed to be a work of art.
No.
Capital A.
We will label it Doodle. Doodle by Stephanie. And everyone, this is your invitation to go doodle. Take out a piece of paper. Stephanie, leave us with a little something. Tell people how they, even if they don't identify as artists, even if they think there's not a creative bone in their body. I know I'm putting you on the spot, but I also know this is what you do for a living. You help. Stephanie has a program called, what is it, the Uncreatives?
Yes.
Yeah, and it's about just creating some space to like play and mess around and be creative in your life. So
Yes, because we all are if we just let ourselves be. The the quickest and easiest is literally just make a scribble on a piece of paper and look for what you can in that scribble and turn it into something. And it might literally just be like one tiny part of your scribble has a little enclosed part. Put a little face in there. You don't have to be like, I can't. You don't have to turn it into the Mona Lisa or whatever. It doesn't have to be one big finished thing, though it can be. But that is, and you can also, I used to do something, another educator and I did this program at a senior center, and our warm up was scribble and swap. We would have them do scribbles and they'd swap with other people and they had to finish. So it's something you can do, like you can do it with your kid, Tim. It's like, it's really fun to do with other people. But
all right.
Yeah.
I love that. I love that. And we didn't get to talk a lot again about, we tip of the iceberg in terms of all of the things you guys have to share. But Tim, I did want to just, in like our last minute here, at least mention for people that you are working on your first novel. Do I have that correct?
Yeah. I have
Wow.
It'll come out next year. I don't know, sometime in the fall. So I'm done. It'll come out next fall. I think in early December, I will have a pre-order link and a cover.
Ooh.
I've seen the cover and it looks very cute.
That's so exciting.
Yes.
That's so exciting.
But
and what is your book called, Tim?
It's called My Own Kind of Person. And it's a young adult novel, a queer love story about a teen stand-up comic who has things he doesn't know how to joke about on stage. And so, since he doesn't know how to joke about them, he doesn't know how to talk about them. Doesn't know how to process them. But I'll give you a spoiler as he's going to figure it out by the end of the book. He figures it out.
Wait, what? It doesn't end with being like, well, I guess I'll never know.
Honestly, that'd be bold, but
that would be bold. Yeah. That would be bold.
Also, maybe wouldn't sell as many copies.
Yeah. No, I like that though. Break the mold. Write the story about the journey that is unresolved. Right. At the end, right? The hero struggles. That's the log line. The hero struggles.
Yeah.
Well, I can't wait to read it. That's super awesome. We'll put links to Tim's website, of course, and everyone's websites and social handles that they may or may not spend time on while they may or may not be trying to detach from their phones. But it'll all be in the show notes. Go there and learn more about both of these creative humans and all the good stuff they're up to. So thank you guys again for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you for talking.
Thanks so much for listening. If you loved this episode, please consider sharing it with someone who might need it. And please take a few minutes and leave a review. That really helps the show find its people. Mighty Forces is produced by Amanda Hirsch and Haley Hatcher. The music of Mighty Forces was written and performed by Jordan Hirsch, aka my wonderful husband. Till next time, remember, you are a mighty force, and we're mightier together.